So auto tagging from Google is this process, and I know it sounds obvious, but automatically tagging our links. And the reason that's important is just means that we don't have to manually use UTMs when we track our inbound marketing activity. Now, auto tagging only works for the connected Google accounts, so specifically Google Ads, but it also works on things like Search Ads 360, Display Video 360, and Campaign Manager 360. So if you're using all of those or any of those, make sure you connect them to Google Analytics 4 and utilize this auto tagging. Because the fundamental kind of first reason why this is so important, it just takes the human error approach out of it, or the forgetfulness. What if we didn't tag our links, then we can't measure it in Google Analytics. So auto tagging makes sure that all links from these ad platforms are tracked within Google Analytics 4 automatically without us having to remember to do something, define something, or adjust all of the URLs and apply the UTMs. The second thing, it actually enables us to match data from the imported platform. So for example, Google Ads, if you connect that to Google Analytics, you also open up a set of reports where you pull in the impressions, clicks, and cost data from Google Ads into Google Analytics. And now, if we were using UTM tracking instead of the auto tracking, you might have named the campaign something slightly differently. Maybe it was lowercase instead of uppercase, or something as silly as that. But what that basically means is all the imported data might exist at this level, and your tracked data, so the sessions and conversions and revenue, might exist at this level, which means you'll never be able to correlate the imported cost data to the performance data, the kind of conversion data. Leaning on auto tagging takes that away. And again, it just means that we can kind of pull everything in at the same level. So what that fundamentally means is that the data we pull in from Google Ads, so the impressions, clicks, cost data, will be matched one-to-one exactly to the performance data, the tracked data, the sessions, the engagement rates, and the conversions. And so all of this is done based on a auto tagging parameter. So we call them UTMs, but they actually don't interestingly use UTMs. And because it doesn't pass through UTM medium, source, campaign content term, all of those things, it doesn't actually pass through all of that into the URL automatically. It uses a slightly different query string parameter, and that's called the gclid, or the GCLID, the Google Click ID. And the gclid is just doing all of that, but just as an ID. And hopefully it's just a little bit shorter and can save some of that valuable URL space. So rather than using all the UTMs like we would in the other non-Google campaigns, it uses an ID. But the whole point is that it's like a VLOOKUP, right? And it just looks up that data. Once it gets that into Google Analytics, it will look up that data from Google Ads, and that's how it gets all of that information in. That's why it looks to the end user exactly the same as if we were to use UTMs. Now, again, we don't have to use the auto tagging, but I highly recommend it. I highly recommend any automated process over manual processes. And the last thing I want to do on this video is just show you what that looks like and how we can see the gclid, because there are times, and you might have come across this yourself, where it doesn't match, or you're looking at your data and you're sure something's not quite right, but you don't know how to check it. So if you're seeing 10,000 clicks in Google Ads and you're seeing 200 sessions in Google Analytics, there's something not quite right. And so the way that we would check our manually tagged links, let's say we're using UTMs on an email campaign, we click all the links just to make sure the UTMs are there and they're working. I'm going to show you exactly the same process, but using gclids and using Google Ads. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to find a link. I'm going to go find this link here. This is going to be for, I'm just going to search for Pixel 7, make sure it's all Google-ified. And then I'm just going to find the paid ad link going to the Google store. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to use a redirect tracker. I'm using Wheregoes. You can use anyone. The first thing I'm going to do is use a redirect tracker to see this in action, and then I'm going to click it for real and make sure it's also there. So I'm doing 2 checks. If I scroll through all of the invisible redirects that I have no idea what they mean, but you can see it going round and round through all these different redirects. But the most important thing here is that they're using the gclid, or at least it appears in that final URL. So by the time the website loads, the users on their website, you've got the gclid in the URL. So first of all, I expect this to be working perfectly fine. But the last thing I'm going to do is go back to Google search results and click that link. And I'm just checking the URL. And yes, you can see that it's in the URL. So sort of double thumbs up, both checks have passed and there's no issues there. So all I do is that's how I check to make sure auto tagging is working, and then making sure if I had access to Google Analytics, I'd go in and make sure the data's lining up there. But if you are seeing any issues with your auto tagging, then this is where I start. Go through, click on some links, make sure that gclid is appearing in the URL. If it's not for whatever reason, go check in your Google Ads account. This can be turned off. It's an opt-out for auto tagging, but someone might have done it. I don't know why. They hopefully would have a good reason, but you can turn it back on, enable it back in there. So in a nutshell, auto tagging, use it if you can, because it saves us time and saves us basically from making errors ourselves, human errors. And the other thing, if you wanted to debug it, just make sure that gclid is there, present in the URL when someone clicks a link. Just like you would debug or check all of your UTM parameters when you're using those, you can do exactly the same thing with auto tagging. Just look for the gclid instead of UTMs, and it does exactly the same thing. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's interesting or is useful to you in some way. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.